Welcome back. It's been a little while, but it's going to be an interesting week for sure. And look at this. Look at everything that's happening in the world outside of Proton, right? World events in Europe, Russia. We're literally on the brink of World War III. We might all be vaporized in the next few weeks, and Bitcoin's still trading at $38,000, so that's a good sign. Remember when the pandemic first kind of closed the United States and Europe down back in March of 2020, Bitcoin went down to $3,500. I'm not even kidding. It really did. So the fact that we're holding this close to such a major global catastrophe is very bullish in my opinion, but this is not it's not a Bitcoin focused channel, right? This is a Proton Loan, Protonchain focused channel, and I do have two things that I want to touch on. Firstly, Terra Luna and Terra UST was added to Proton Loan last week. And I think Tether was as well, but whatever about Tether. I'm not a Tether holder. I did go a little bit down the Luna rabbit hole and discovered that Luna is actually algorithmically based, backed. This is the only stablecoin that's backed by an algorithmic mechanism, and I'm sure someone who's got a better grasp of Luna will go in the comments and fill me in on how I'm botching this pitch. But Luna gets burned when more people buy UST, as far as I know, right? So if people start buying UST is backed by the value of Luna, and Luna is burned to make the value go up. It's very interesting. It's probably the most unique pair, stablecoin / deflationary coin pair that I've ever heard of, or at least recently. So it's kind of exciting, and the interest rates were really good on it for the first few days. So I went and FOMO'd into it a little bit, and we're pulling a little bit of yield from that because I like to yield farm, and I can borrow a little bit more now because of that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, which is, in my opinion, a big deal. Now, this may be not news to any of you. Like, PNN, he probably knew about this. He'd be like, yeah, dude, that's not new news. But I didn't know, guys. So, we have an executive order coming this week. We also had an incident in a country north of us here in the United States a couple weeks back where the government didn't like what some of the drivers were doing, and decided to go ahead and find out who those drivers were, and then go ahead and shut down their bank accounts or seize funds right out of a bank. It's really scary. So when we've got an executive order coming from the president, and you've got all these Bitcoin maxis on Twitter saying, get your money off the exchanges, get your money off the exchanges, get your money off the exchanges, I get a little nervous. Even the CEO of Kraken 2 weeks ago, when commenting about the government up north, said, if you want to feel safe, get your money off my exchange. If I get a letter from the government, I will comply, and we will have to give your funds to them. And that's obviously a paraphrase, but that is literally what he said about the situation from a couple weeks ago. So I went into, I'm thinking to myself, well, Metallicus, is the company behind Proton and Proton Loan. If they got some nasty letter from the government, how would they act? So I asked Marlon straight up. Metal pays you curious about how easily the U.S. government could seize assets from Protonchain. How quickly would Metallicus aid the government in seizing funds off the platform? And he basically just put it all to rest. And I had a feeling, to be totally honest, but down here he basically says, seize? You can't seize Bitcoin or ETH, and you can't seize accounts on Proton. Basically kind of what I thought, but I got confirmation of this, right? Proton is a decentralized blockchain, and if you have funds sitting on it, the U.S. government can't just get it out, according to Marlon. So I thought that made me feel a little bit better, honestly. I've got a pretty sizable amount of Bitcoin and ETH in Proton Loan, and I don't necessarily want to have to cancel my loan because of some knee-jerk reaction from the government. So didn't and haven't, and I won't, because I apparently don't need to. But I thought it would be good to let you guys know that Marlon is confirming that we are a decentralized exchange, and they would not be able to comply. They physically wouldn't be able to. I don't think Celsius would be able to say that. Not that Celsius is trying to compete with Proton, but they kind of do in terms of the interest stuff and swaps and all that. And that's a centralized exchange, and I'm pretty sure they custody your funds themselves directly. And if the government send them a letter, or if they send Coinbase a letter, and we know if they send Kraken a letter, that these places literally will not even fight. They will say, okay, here's the Bitcoin. Sorry, customer. So, yeah. We are apparently safe on the Proton chain, and I thought that was worth mentioning, that I asked this in the chat this morning. And that's all I really wanted to cover with you guys. Loan's doing well. We're still sitting under 15, but this is like an interesting time in the world, so I don't think it's a big deal. Look at ETH's price. The OpenSea blocking certain countries has not done well for ETH. ETH is definitely a decentralized coin, but the platforms that run it are not, and OpenSea is not a neutral platform. Anyway, I digress. I just wanted to give an update on the safety behind the Proton chain, as well as the Terra Luna edition. Would love to see Cardano and Ripple next. That would be huge. Anyway, have a good one, folks.